Welcome back to the games, gamers. A chance to win an Anvil Arrow this month. That is right. Go over to our Patreon page. All it does is take a $1 pledge and you become a patron and you get a chance to win an Anvil Arrow. That's right. Thank you everybody for our wonderful prize this month. It's because of our patrons, and we got to hit that first goal of 100, guys, so we can keep up in the prizes. All right. An analysis of Squadron 42. Normally I am on that side, of the video, but because of the layout here, I wanted to get on this side so we can go over and analyze Q2, which should be complete, but it is not, and Q3 of 2019 for Squadron 42 on this roadmap to see if we are in fact going to get Squadron 42 released on the second quarter of 2020, which is the release date for this game. So let's go over this, shall we? Here we've got Schuben Miner completed. Great. Okay, AI, which is a huge issue. We're moving right on to AI here. The AI, it's a huge issue. I got engaged with this in the PTU on 3.6 to see if in fact the AI had improved. The ship AI, slightly better. The FPS, the NPC AI, not so much better. There isn't what I would call a definitive improvement. I'm not seeing like an amazing jump forward. I saw a small step, and I'm happy for that step. I would not call it completed. The paths of the AI saying as completed, these are improvements on the new flight model to allow AI spaceships to request complex commands. So that is within the game, and then the AI to be able to receive these commands and to follow through on these. Haven't necessarily seen that in the P2. I'll take their word for it. The flight standard pilot completed, creating standard level flight behavior. I wouldn't necessarily call it completed. Hover mode in gameplay, they're saying it's completed. Now, you know, I wouldn't call that completed at all, actually. We have a lot of people in our community who are saying that hover mode is not where it should be, that they're having issues with strafing. So these are things that need to be worked on going forward. I wouldn't say that it is, however, completed. So I think that's a little bit ironic that they're putting completed on hover mode. They're saying it's implementation of hover mode for ships in gravity that makes special use of VTOL thrusters. This is why they focus on hover mode, because they obviously need it for gameplay within Squadron 42. So they're going to bring that back, and that is going to be an additional flight mechanic. We know the new flight system I'm okay with. I like the new flight system, but I do notice that there still needs to be improvements with the feeling of the connectivity with the pilot and the ship. Like, I'm not really feeling the connectivity of flight yet. It's getting there. It's getting better. Hover mode, no way would I say that that is completed. It needs a lot of work before I would put a completed stamp on it. I don't know, Sig. It seems a little misleading that you're putting completed on it. Vehicle scanning V3, vehicle scanning, not quite sure, because I have not done a lot of scanning in the new 3.6 PTU build. So if you guys have any comments on that, please put that down below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say on scanning version 3, if it's any better. I was very familiar with scanning version 2 on the Prospector. Also hover mode, getting back into that. Hover mode with mining, I'm hearing it's not that easy. Diva from our community says that strafing in hover mode, it's still buggy as hell. So they need to fix that. And then I would say, okay, great. Then you can put the completed stamp on that, Sig. Fuel mechanics version 2, implementing new fuel behaviors based on their composition. Interesting. Don't know too much about that, other than the fact that with the new flight model, the new mechanic, that obviously I'm seeing fuel consumption being much more an issue, a good issue, like it's actually working the way that it should. So I would be okay with putting the stamp of approval on that. Player carryables, not a big deal. Player free look, yes, the new FOIP. I wouldn't call it necessarily new, but it seems to be like a more polished FOIP, which is face over internet protocol, where your camera can detect your eye movements and facial movements and then display this out there. I've seen an improvement on the FOIP. And I've seen an improvement on the IR tracking as far as my head moving with free look. So I would go ahead and put the completed stamp of approval on that, because I do like where it's at currently. Player jump version 2, still need work on the player jump version 2, and vaulting, which is being introduced as well. this isn't anything I would put a stamp of completed on right now. You know, I think it's very misleading that they do. I think they have to do it because they at least have put it in the game, and they want to make sure that the investors are looking at this and saying, okay, they're making progress. That's exactly why I think they put completed on it. Core tech, organic shaders. Yes, the visuals are stunning. Weapon projectile effects, stunning again. Like the visuals, I have no problems with the visuals. They look fantastic. On-demand physicalizing V2, refactoring physics calculations into object container stringing systems. They are saying is completed. You know, I want to see a little bit more in terms of on the PU side, this focus towards server-side OCS, because obviously if we do not have that, then the PU cannot exist. Again, why I think they're focusing so much on Squadron 42, not just the investor money, but also the fact that they have to go ahead and make sure that they can solve their problems with their server issues, which they can't solve right now. I saw it in Pillar Talk. I saw the interactions between Chris and Tony. There's no solution right now. And that's one of the reasons why Squadron 42 is a focus. Weapons and items in Q2. Cure Life Medical Pen, the Medi Pens we know work. The frag grenades on the Bear Mark 4s are completed. Yes, I've seen them in use. Not seen the Vandal Lance in use. That's awesome. It is completed. That's cool. I would love to see that. And so there's our Q2. Now it looks as if they're saying everything is completed here. So I'm not quite sure why for the entirety of the SQ42 Q2 they don't have like a complete on it. It's interesting. Did you notice that in the AI and the gameplay and the weapons and items does not have like completed at all? In fact, it's quite interesting because when you close it, it doesn't say complete as well. Perhaps it's an error in data entry and they need to put completed on there, but that should be completed. Q2 has ended as of June, and in July we're starting Q3. Now in Q3 going forward, let's see what is completed and what's still being worked on. Q2 concerns me slightly that we don't have a completed stamp on it. Q3 going forward, that's from July to September. So we're talking July, August, September, Q3. We have Shipjacker Heavy, which is the armor for shipjackers, and that is something that needs to be completed because of the storylines going forward in the game. Heavy pirate presence involved. We saw that in the vertical slice of Squadron 42 gameplay. 9 of 15 completed. The Basilisk armor that looks very Judge Dredd, I'm totally down with. They are like the version of Judge Dredd's of judges in the verse. They go around and they basically are the law. And I think that's really cool. 6 of 17 completed. And gunners, the gunner uniform, 7 of 17, which, you know, we're talking about turrets. I'm sure that'll be a discussion. I'm sure we'll see it somewhere here in the Q3 map. So let's see here. AI. Okay, this is going to be huge. This is where, you know, this is where the majority of the work needs to be done, is the AI. And I'm not too happy with where it's at currently in the PTU on what I'm seeing. The ships are reacting a little bit better. The actual NPC characters, not so much. Now, first on the AI list, there's 14 entries, by the way. AI is a huge issue for Squadron 42. Very similar to how where server issues are a huge issue to the PU. AI is a huge issue to Squadron 42. These are the big issues in both of these realms here. So we've got flight, landing, and takeoff and travel, 1 of 2. Behaviors allows for AI to take off and land with new flight model. I think that hover mode needs to be perfected before they can say that the second task, before the second task is complete on this, and that's what the holdup is there. Flight mission logic additional controls, 1 of 7 completed. Now we have just started. The first portion of the third quarter here. So I'm imagining that not many things will be close to complete. It will be interesting to see where they're at. The flight mission logic additional control says implement additional commands designers or players can impart to AI spaceship crew members. We talked about how cool this was going to be in a prior video. We talked about NPCs being crew and how cool it was that if they had like different types of skill sets, like one was a better gunner, or one was a better engineer, or one was a better co-pilot, you know, these types of roles that NPC crew would take, the salaries that you would pay them. We had a wonderful talk about that nearly 2 years ago on the channel with our community. And this is something I find very like an immersive quality to the game. Like if you get involved with your NPC crew, this could be like a Firefly situation where you get to know every NPC character and you get very attached to your NPC characters. For people that don't really want to have a lot of human controlled or player controlled crews, these NPC crews are going to be very important, and the mechanics involved behind how they're interacting with you as you're playing the game are also very important. 1 of 7 tasks completed, a lot of work needed to go right there. FPS Cover Usage V1, we talked about this on the last Inside Star Citizen. We were talking about how the paths of these NPCs were very convoluted. They were almost to the point where we were like comical. We were laughing, like, why would the NPCs need to run around so much? They're saying 4 of 8 tasks completed. I think what they're doing is developing new lines of program where these NPCs can run behind different types of cover and objects, and also creating different variable subsets which deal with like how the NPCs are acting with you, the character, you, the player in the game, and where the NPCs are going to run, like what they're going to do given a set of variables. There needs to be a lot of work with that. So 4 of 8 tasks complete. It's nice to see that they're halfway done with that. 1 of 7 tasks complete with realistic firing V2. We know that it's all over the board right now. Improving FPS combat behavior so that NPCs will choose appropriate weapons and tactics. It's not anywhere where it needs to be. We can see that it needs a lot of work. 1 of 7 tasks completed there. Combat weapon types. Obviously, they want to make like a deep a lineup of different types of weapons to where these NPCs, so you have some spice, so that it's a little bit different when you're playing the game. You have different types of effects and damages, and you can see all the different types of weapons. We saw a really big march and design towards new weaponry put into the game this year. Lots of new handheld FPS weapons being introduced into the game. I'm very happy to see that. I'm very focused on the teams regarding the weapons because I want to see, I'm a very big FPS fan, so I do want to see like the continual flow of new guns, rockets, these types of things, handheld weapons, also space ship weapons, weapons for your ship, weaponry for your ship as well. So we've seen this, and I'm very happy to see this in the pipeline and see this continue to progress forward. Flight, gunships, implementation of more specific flight behavior for gunship crew members to make better usage of turrets and gimbal weapons. Blah. Yeah, I mean, like right now, the gimbals and the turrets aren't even really used that much. So the NPCs are going to be pretty heavy and predominant when it comes to like manning these turrets. The only thing efficient with turrets right now on ships are when you're manning them and using them to strike like the ground, like a ground forces. You're flying in a hammerhead, destroyer, and you're going down an assault, like a ground team, the ground strikes. These turrets then become very useful, and I've seen it firsthand where they basically obliterate everything in front of them. And I love turrets in that regards. As far as space flight and space combat, needs a lot of work, and I think you'll be relying very heavily upon NPCs in terms of gimbals, turrets, those types of things in space combat. FPS grenades are scheduled. Interestingly enough, that flight gunships, the improvements to crew members being able to man turrets is not even being worked on right now. That's not really satisfying. AI needs a lot of work. This whole category needs a lot of work. And like I said, this is a major hurdle moving forward. Ship AI 3D pathfinding, basic technology for spaceships to efficiently navigate through space using physics grids. Yeah, it's slightly there. Like I said, 3 of 11 shows that is true, that my opinion upon when I'm fighting against NPCs in space, it's improved slightly, but not where it needs to be. There still needs to be that connectivity. It is not there. 3 of 11, I'll agree with that. Still needs a lot of work. Flight formations, 1 of 14. Functionality to allow AI spaceships to fly as part of a formation. Obviously, more work needs to be done on AI. We can see it all the way down here. Things that are not even really worked on, that are scheduled. These are things that they need to step up on. SIG, you need to get going. We need to make sure that we're getting the AI coders, programmers, designers in there in SIG, and that this work gets going in order for us to feel confident that the game will be released in Q2 of 2020. Wingman commands, functionality for Wingman to receive and handle the player's commands. Those of us who have played Wing Commander are very, very familiar with the set of rules in regards to giving commands to your wing man and what happens. That was probably some of the best gameplay moments of my life. The best gameplay mechanics from the 90s was Wing Commander giving your wingman commands. It was very, very cool, and we will see it in Squadron 42, so I'm happy for that, but they need to work on it. Walk and talk, 19 of 38 tasks completed. System and animations to support NPCs being able to walk alongside the player or other NPCs and maintain a believable conversation. Very cool that they're focusing on that. I do like that. It gives you an immersive quality within the game. 19 of 38 tasks halfway completed. Vandal combat behavior, interesting. 7 of 29 tasks completed. Foundational tech to enable unique behavior and attack patterns for Vandal usables V2. Improve the usable system and performances and expand functionalities for designers to easily manage, create a wide variety of interactive objects. This needs a lot of work. They're saying that it's halfway through, but I think the system's very sloppy. The usable system right now, very, very sloppy. Things do not go back where they're supposed to go. A lot of items that you can pick up and use are literally shaking on tables currently in the 3.5 PU and in the 3.6 PTU builds. The usables are not so usable. They're really not. So in terms of like putting down a system, the foundation is there, but it needs a lot of work. We need to build upon what we currently have by leaps and bounds. Companion AI, all behaviors for friendly and enemy NPCs to work together and or with you. Yeah, again, like AI is such it was very laborious to even go through all of that, you know, like that just to talk about this particular section was probably very difficult, and many people have left this video because that is how intense and how much work needs to be put into the AI department. It really does. This game is so dependent upon AI, and they're having so many issues with it. I really want to see big steps forward, and in upcoming months when Inside Star Citizen comes back. By the way, the Inside Star Citizen review will come back when Inside Star Citizen comes back, and I look forward to chilling out with you guys during that again. But you know, when we get to the point where I can see, based upon their content, improved AI interactions, I'm going to be very like, we need more work on it. I'm just going to keep pounding the table that AI needs a lot more work. Now, gameplay. We've got 3 of 7 for stealth. Okay, all right, stealth gameplay. It's not really a huge thing for me, but cool feature to add. I mean, those types of game mechanics can be very well abused and have been in countless titles. So I'm very wary of stealth mechanics in the PO. Where I do like the stealth mechanics in the solo Squadron 42 play, I would be a little bit wary of putting it in the PU. Power system version 2. Okay, so we're talking about the power systems for our ships, improvements to support systemic gameplay for power systems. I think that falls in line with a lot of the the components, the degradable components and ships that have to be replaced. I think that goes hand in hand with that. And the 3 of 18 that you're seeing there is partially that work. So only a sixth of the work done there. Half of the work done for nav map to radar version 2. I have seen very significant progress with the nav maps in the ship console. I think they'll get to where they need to go here. I don't see that as being a problem. Death animations improvements, yes, that needs a lot of work. And I don't see them having an issue with nailing that down. That just has to do with animation, and I think that they can do that fairly well. So I think they'll lock that down. Mag boots, scheduled player locomotion across the surface while in 0G. They want to make the 0G experience feel more realistic. I don't blame them. I think that would be great to see new animations in regards to that. 0G push and pull. 1 of 2 tasks complete. 0G traversal without EVA using players' hands. That's pretty awesome. And I think what we're seeing there is kind of like a decoupled ship effect, where when you decouple your ship, you're feeling gravity a hell of a lot more. I think they'll implement that in the 0G push and pull, and I believe that's why you see 1 of 2 tasks completed. I think they just got to polish up that. I don't see a problem with that being completed in Q3. Seated item handling, that's very cool with all the introduction of the land vehicles and the new land vehicles that they're producing here, especially the bikes. I think that would be something that needs to be focused on. It looks like that in the game that's important, which I'm looking forward to see that gameplay in Squadron 42. FPS close combat, hacha, yes, little Bruce Lee kung fu fighting action. 64 of 95 tasks completed. One of the members in our community is actually making a fight club, so I'm looking forward to seeing content come from him. Cockpit interaction, 0 of 3 tasks completed. Functionality enabling physical player interaction with cockpit items. Well, that's really interesting. I think what we're talking about here is perhaps new items being introduced, like flare, or I think more so we're talking about like the interactions with HUDs. It's very sloppy right now. You're using the F key and the zoom in and out. Perhaps we're talking about looking at different HUDs within different ships and then locking in particular sections so that gameplay within the kind of touch and feel HUD will be improved. That's going to be a monumental task, so I'm not quite sure that'll be done in Q3. Core mechanics to track player status and well-being, 6 of 26. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be an issue. And NPC healing, okay, that's pretty cool. That'll be introduced. Core tech, here we go. Atmospheric effects V2. The effects currently are great. I don't think it's necessarily needed. I really don't. Large scale shadow improvements. Improvements to shadow system to allow multiple large scale shadow maps. Yeah, I think that's important. I think that lends itself to the immersive quality of the game. Mission logic V2. Implement additional functionalities to help the design team build the mission flow efficiently. I think it has to do with getting all the missions in the narrative nailed down to the point where the missions can be created easily. That's kind of what it sounds like to me. 26 of 38 looks like they'll be able to nail that down Q3. I think they will. That might speed things up in terms of that portion of development. Player interaction system improvements, the system that allows a player to interact with the game. Is that for real? Is that actually stated in this roadmap? Isn't that essentially like our experience with the entire game? Like 8 of 44 tasks complete. We're a fifth of the way through, guys. We're 20% of the way through for having a game that we want, which makes sense. It's pretty funny. Procedural asteroids. I'm already in love with the fact that the asteroids that are currently in the game are phenomenal. I love the experience of it. And I can only say that an improvement to it would definitely just be even much more immersive. Now let's get into ships and vehicles. The Idris. Oh my God, we're going to get that complete. I'm telling you what, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that in SitCon. The Drake Cutlass Red still being scheduled. A lot of people looking forward to the med ship. I know I am. And I think it's part of the reason why they're working on healing for NPC characters as well. Aegis Javelin, 51 of 64. I really think we're going to see these at SitCon. I think there's a very good chance that you're going to see the Javelin and the Idris at SitCon because so many people are looking forward to the finished product on both. it should be very, very interesting. And then weapons and items, we have a Basilisk deployable shield, a mobile shield system designed for quick deployment in combat. That looks like something they throw on the ground and stand behind. Very, very cool. And guys, that wraps things up. So Q3 looking like it's going to be a big quarter here. We're talking AI. Like, that is the primary amount of work that needs to get done in Q3. Obviously, moving forward, you can even see in Q4 we've got more AI. So like, AI is going to be just this huge obstacle for them until I start seeing like major headway being put into like the development of AI's planning, as far as their movement, as far as how they react to the player. I'm going to say that I think the Squadron 42 will be delayed at least by 2 quarters. I think we're seeing more likely this going to be released end of 2020, perhaps all the way to mid 2021, unless they start just, you know, solving a lot of these AI issues. That's my personal opinion. But whew, for those of you that stuck around, awesome. Thank you for sticking around for this analysis. I would love to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments below. But what I'm currently seeing is just backlog, this huge amount of work in regards to AI. It makes sense. They need to work on it. And I do think they're capable of solving these AI issues. I mean, it's just part of programming and part of making a good game. But I don't see a lot of, you know, progress being made in this AI department. So like I said, I think that we're going to be delayed by at least a quarter or two, perhaps 3 quarters, until this gets, you know, nipped in the bud. But anyway, guys, hardcore fans that stuck with me here. I'm just saying, don't forget our Patreon giveaway, Anvil Arrow. I love this game. I love what it wants to be. I love you guys. And I'll see you on the next vid.